right now, while you're sleeping, your eyes are quietly suffocating.
Yeah, it really sounds like the premise of a physiological horror movie, doesn't it?
It totally does. But it's a documented clinical reality. Think about your morning routine for a second.
Right, just waking up.
Exactly. You wake up, the bedroom is still somewhat dark, and before you even reach for your phone to check the time, you're aggressively rubbing your eyelids.
Because they feel incredibly heavy.
Yeah, heavy, dry, scratchy. It feels like they're physically exhausted, as if they're coated in this invisible abrasive film.
Absolutely.
And when you finally force them open, the alarm clock across the room is just a fuzzy, glowing blur. You stumble to the bathroom, and it takes an hour, maybe a cup of coffee, and a lot of blinking for your vision to actually sharpen up to its baseline.
And what's the universal narrative we've all been fed about this exact experience?
We just tell ourselves, well, I'm just getting older.
Right. Or perhaps you're driving home at night and a truck's high beams hit your windshield and suddenly you're completely blinded.
Oh, by those massive, shattered, fractal starbursts of white light. It's terrifying.
You grip the steering wheel, your heart rate spikes, your knuckles turn white, and you just accept this terrifying loss of visual control as your new normal.
But it's a tragedy that we've normalized this.
It really is. The narrative that degrading vision is simply a natural, inevitable tax we pay for getting older is, well, it's fundamentally flawed.
Completely.
In fact, from a clinical perspective, it's a massive, incredibly profitable misconception.
Right, because what we're looking at is a medical and pharmaceutical landscape where the actual root biological causes of vision degradation are routinely, almost systematically ignored.
Ignored in favor of endless localized symptom management. We're essentially treating the smoke and completely ignoring the fire burning at the cellular level.
And that is exactly the core mission of our deep dive today. We are completely dismantling the symptom-chasing vision industry.
We have to.
We've obtained a comprehensive clinical breakdown compiled by Dr. Arthur Clarke. I've spent the last week poring over his data, and I have to tell you, it reads less like a standard nutritional guideline and more like a high-stakes medical leak.
It's intense.
It really is. We're going to unpack a highly specific, targeted medical protocol because according to the clinical trials, your eyes are not merely aging through simple wear and tear.
Not at all. They're actively suffocating, starving, and deteriorating in the dark.
We're talking about two primary hidden biological dangers that are destroying visual acuity across the population.
Right.
The first is nocturnal retinal hypoxia, which is the literal asphyxiation of your eye tissue at night.
And the second is a toxic biological cementing process called glycation.
I mean, the sheer scale of the disconnect between what the modern clinical data proves and what the average patient sitting in an optometrist's chair is told, it's staggering.
It's alarming. When you analyze the findings, it becomes incredibly clear that the catastrophic cellular damage is actually peaking at night.
Wait, peaking at night while you sleep.
Yes. The cascading oxidative stress, the chronic low-grade microinflammation, it happens precisely when your body is entering its deepest restorative sleep phases.
Which is when you'd think things are healing.
Exactly. But instead, your most delicate, energy-hungry ocular tissues are being completely isolated from their required nutrient and oxygen supply.
Wow. Let's break down this aging eye cover-up because the statistics alone should be triggering alarm bells globally.
They absolutely should.
According to the clinical data, once you pass the age of 60, the structural integrity of your eyes becomes significantly more fragile.
You see conditions like chronic dry eye syndrome, early-stage cataracts, age-related macular degeneration.
And even sudden, unexplained blurry vision just spiking dramatically. The warnings state that severe vision loss among adults is rising at a speed never before seen in recorded medical history.
We're in the middle of an escalating, compounding crisis.
We are, yet the standard medical advice you receive when you complain about that agonizing morning blurriness is usually a sympathetic shrug and a prescription for a much stronger lens.
Or, you get a recommendation for over-the-counter artificial tears, or eventually a surgical referral to laser away the damaged tissue.
But let's be clinically precise about the mechanical reality of those interventions.
Right. If you have chronic systemic inflammation and advanced oxidative stress physically degrading the photoreceptors at the back of your eye, an over-the-counter saline drop does not interrupt that biological process.
Not at all. It merely lubricates the exterior surface of the cornea for, a window of maybe 2 to 3 hours?
Exactly. It's superficial relief. Stronger glasses simply use geometry to refract incoming light differently.
They bend the light to compensate for a biological lens or a retinal wall that's actively failing.
They do absolutely nothing to halt the underlying cellular rot. It's the physiological equivalent of placing a bucket under a leaking roof in your living room and calling it a permanent structural repair.
Right, the bucket catches the water, sure, but the support beams above you are still rotting away. I need to pause right there, though, and challenge this premise because the implications are actually quite frightening.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you telling me that when I wake up with that scratchy, heavy feeling, my eyes aren't just tired from staring at a computer screen the day before?
No, they aren't just tired.
They are actively dying because they were literally starved of resources while I was sleeping. I push back on the old age excuse all the time, but the concept that my eyes are breaking down because I went to sleep, that contradicts everything we understand about human rest.
That is the ultimate biological irony we have to confront. We universally associate sleep with cellular healing.
Right.
But let's look at the data. A major, rigorously peer-reviewed study fundamentally shifted our understanding of this recently.
Okay.
Leading researchers have suspected this for years, but the imaging technology finally caught up. They proved that age-related retinal damage begins with highly insidious, silent changes deep within the vascular structure of the eye.
And these changes are happening at night.
Yes, they are hyperactive at night. While your brain is in deep REM sleep, believing the body is repairing itself, the delicate photoreceptor cells are isolated.
The specific microscopic rods and cones that allow you to distinguish a loved one's face across a dimly lit room or read fine print.
Exactly, they are physically breaking down.
Why are they isolated? I mean, what is shutting off the supply line?
Well, it comes down to the unique anatomy of the eye. The eye is incredibly vascular. It demands a massive, disproportionate amount of oxygen and blood flow relative to its physical size.
Because it burns through a lot of energy.
It has one of the highest metabolic rates in the human body. But as we age, the tiny microcapillaries feeding the retina become stiff, narrow, and inefficient.
Oh, I see.
And during an 8-hour sleep cycle, your heart rate drops, your blood pressure naturally lowers, and the circulatory force pushing blood into the extremities weakens.
So the pump slows down.
Right. And because those ocular capillaries are already compromised by age, the lowered nighttime blood pressure is no longer sufficient to force oxygen into the deep retinal tissue.
Which brings us directly to the first major hidden danger outlined in the leak nocturnal retinal hypoxia. Let's define the terminology so we're completely grounded.
Sure.
Nocturnal meaning occurring at night in the dark. Retinal referring to the light-sensitive sensory tissue lining the back wall of the eye. And hypoxia meaning a dangerous deprivation of adequate oxygen.
Precisely. To give you a specific metric that's highlighted in the protocol, researchers have documented up to a 41% reduction in oxygen tension in the retinas of older adults during sleep.
Wait, a 41% drop?
A 41% drop. Think about what happens to any living tissue when you cut its oxygen supply nearly in half for 8 hours every single night.
The cells panic.
They panic.
Yeah.
They cannot produce the ATP energy required to maintain their structural integrity. They begin to suffocate.
And if your retinal tissue undergoes this hypoxic stress night after night, decade after decade, you are guaranteed to wake up with fatigued, swollen eyes.
Over time, your peripheral vision begins to noticeably blur. The colors you process look flatter, washed out, less vibrant than they did in your 20s.
The cumulative compounding damage of this nightly suffocation is just profound.
It is, but the protocol doesn't just identify the threat. It introduces a highly specific, targeted intervention to reverse this exact mechanism.
And it starts with the deep red variety of dragon fruit.
Yes.
Dragon fruit. It's visually striking, exotic. You usually see it stacked in the expensive organic produce aisle. But reading through the protocol, the guidelines are intensely specific about the classification here.
Very specific.
We are not talking about the common white flesh variety that you find in a standard fruit salad. The protocol mandates the deep red flesh. Why is that distinction a matter of absolute biological necessity?
Because the visual color is a direct indicator of the chemical payload. The deep, vibrant red flesh of that specific dragon fruit is created by a potent class of antioxidants known as betalains.
Betalains, okay.
You will not find betalains in the white-fleshed varieties. When you ingest these specific betalains, they survive the digestive tract and enter the bloodstream, where they actively bond to the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels.
And what do they do once they bond?
Once attached, they act as a catalyst. heavily supporting and accelerating the production of nitric oxide.
Oh, nitric oxide.
Nitric oxide is arguably the most crucial signaling molecule in the human cardiovascular system for regulating blood flow. It functions as a rapid, potent vasodilator.
So it opens things up.
Exactly. It chemically signals the smooth muscle tissue wrapped around your blood vessels to physically relax, which literally widens the diameter of the capillaries.
And we're talking about capillaries in the eye that are microscopic, right?
Now,
They must be incredibly difficult to force open if they've grown stiff.
they are some of the finest, most delicate microvessels in your entire anatomy. Many of them are so narrow that red blood cells have to line up in single file just to squeeze through.
Wow, single file.
Yeah. By triggering nitric oxide production and widening those tiny, stubborn capillaries, you are drastically increasing the sheer volume of oxygenated blood that can successfully penetrate the deep retinal tissue while your heart rate is lowered in deep sleep.
Which completely neutralizes that 41% oxygen drop.
Precisely. And this is not theoretical biochemistry. The clinical trials tracked older participants who consumed a standardized red dragon fruit extract over a strict 6-week period.
And what did they find?
The clinical imaging showed highly meaningful, undeniable improvements in ocular microcirculation. Blood was reaching zones of the retina that had been starving for years.
But the functional improvements were what mattered to the patients, right? They demonstrated significantly better contrast sensitivity and increased visual field depth.
Exactly. In plain terms, they could suddenly distinguish objects much more clearly in low-light environments, and the heavy, blurry haze that haunted their mornings began to lift.
Because the suffocation had been halted. Let's talk application, though. The clinical dosage leaked in the notes is exactly half a red flesh dragon fruit, consumed about an hour before you go to sleep.
Right.
But anyone who has cut open a dragon fruit knows it's absolutely packed with thousands of tiny black seeds.
Yeah, it is.
This seems like a logistical issue. Do I spit them out? Do I swallow them whole like little vitamin capsules? How does the digestive mechanics of this actually work?
I'm really glad you brought that up because this is a critical point of failure for the majority of people attempting natural protocols.
Okay.
If you swallow those tiny dragon fruit seeds whole, they will pass entirely through your gastrointestinal tract perfectly intact. Their outer shells are incredibly resilient.
So you get nothing from them?
You will extract zero medicinal benefit from them. You must actively, intentionally chew the seeds.
Chew them. Okay.
Inside those tiny black protective shells is a highly concentrated, bioavailable matrix of omega-3 fatty acids and raw magnesium. Both of these compounds have heavily documented essential roles in supporting the myelin sheath around the retinal nerves and driving cellular repair.
Oh, wow.
By physically crushing the seeds with your teeth, you are unlocking a secondary neuroprotective payload that works synergistically with the oxygen-boosting betalins. You are feeding the nerve while oxygenating the tissue.
So we utilize the red dragon fruit betalins to force the blood vessels open and flood the suffocating retina with oxygen.
Right.
But there's a companion fruit paired with this in the first stage of the protocol. Its specific job is to combat that agonizing morning blurriness, the kind where your eyes feel glued shut and you're aggressively rubbing them just trying to focus on your ceiling fan.
Watermelon.
Watermelon. Now, I understand that watermelon is over 90% water. I completely grasp the baseline hydration aspect. But what is it actually doing on a targeted cellular level to stop my optical system from degrading?
Well, systemic hydration is merely the baseline requirement.
Yeah.
Because as we age, the vitreous humor, the gel-like substance filling the eye, loses volume.
Right.
The eyes dry out faster, and overall blood viscosity thickens. That sluggish, dehydrated circulation is the primary physical driver of that frustrating morning blur.
Okay, that makes sense.
But watermelon's true, profound clinical value for your vision lies in a potent carotenoid antioxidant called lycopene.
Lycopene.
Watermelon is actually one of the richest, most bioavailable dietary sources of lycopene on the planet, surpassing even tomatoes.
Really? More than tomatoes?
Yeah, more than tomatoes.
Yeah.
Observational clinical studies strongly link high circulating levels of serum lycopene to a massive, statistically significant reduction in oxidative damage within the retinal cells.
So what does it actually do to the cells?
It physically embeds itself into the cell membranes and offers a protective chemical shield against the reactive oxygen species that drive the development of age-related conditions.
And The data notes that regular nightly watermelon consumption also elevates the circulating levels of other crucial compounds like lutein and zeaxanthin in the bloodstream.
It essentially primes the body's entire antioxidant network.
And the recommended dosage is 1 to 2 cups of chilled, seedless watermelon roughly 30 minutes before bed.
Right.
But I have to raise a red flag here based on human behavior. A massive portion of the population heavily salt their watermelon. It's a cultural staple.
Oh yeah, very common.
Does a little sprinkle of salt really disrupt the protocol? A pinch of sodium seems harmless.
It does not just disrupt the protocol, it completely sabotages it and introduces a severe counterproductive medical risk.
Wait, really?
You must absolutely skip the salt. This is a non-negotiable clinical rule in the framework. Adding dietary sodium to the watermelon fundamentally changes the osmotic balance of the intervention.
Why is that?
Because a sudden influx of added dietary sodium directly and rapidly elevates your intraocular pressure.
Let's define that. Intraocular pressure is the literal fluid pressure pushing outward from inside the eyeball itself.
Correct. Your eye maintains its spherical shape through internal fluid dynamics. When you consume excess sodium, your body retains water, blood volume increases, and the pressure inside the enclosed space of the eye spikes.
Oh, I see.
The clinical warnings are explicit that elevated intraocular pressure is a significant and often irreversible risk factor for permanent vision loss. High pressure physically crushes the delicate optic nerve fibers exiting the back of the eye.
So you're trying to heal the ocular tissue with lycopene, but by adding salt, you're placing the entire system under dangerous mechanical stress.
It is entirely counterproductive.
That is a terrifying detail. A completely harmless, nostalgic habit of sprinkling salt on a summer fruit could literally be crushing the optic nerve inside your eyeball.
It is the biological reality. And there's another crucial mechanical detail regarding the watermelon protocol that most people miss entirely.
What's that?
Almost everyone eats the pink flesh and throws the rind in the trash. The protocol strongly advises keeping that dense, white section of the flesh located right near the green outer skin.
The white part. Why?
That specific white zone contains an incredibly high concentration of citrulline. Citrulline is an amino acid that the body converts into arginine, which heavily supports healthy endothelial function and blood vessel flexibility.
Oh, so it works with the dragon fruit.
Yes. It acts as a direct, synergistic amplifier to the dragon fruit's bedlins, ensuring that the maximum possible volume of blood flows into the eye at night. You can blend that white rind into a nighttime smoothie or eat it directly, but do not throw the citrulline away.
Okay, let's map out where we are in the protocol. We've successfully widened the microcapillaries. We've flooded the suffocating eye with oxygen and shielded it with lycopene.
We've conquered the nocturnal retinal hypoxia.
But getting blood to the eye is useless if the physical lens of the eye itself, the actual biological window you're looking through, is being slowly clouded over by a toxic, sticky biological sludge. Which brings us to the second major hidden danger and the absolute heavy hitter of the entire clinical list. Surprisingly, it's not some rare, incredibly expensive berry from the high altitudes of the Himalayas.
No, it's papaya.
Papaya.
Yeah. Papaya targets what is arguably the most destructive, widespread, yet completely overlooked mechanism of age-related vision deterioration, glycation.
Glycation. I need you to really break down the mechanics of this for me, because the term glycation sounds like a hyper-specific process happening in an industrial chemistry lab, not something occurring inside my eye while I sleep.
It is pure fundamental biochemistry, and it is happening inside you right now.
Okay, tell me how.
Glycation is a spontaneous, non-enzymatic process where excess blood glucose-free floating sugar molecules circulating in your system physically crashes into and aggressively binds to the structural proteins within your eye tissue.
So sugar just hits the protein and sticks.
Yes. When a sugar molecule and a protein haphazardly bond together like this, they undergo a chemical deformation. They cross-link and form what are medically categorized as advanced glycation end products.
Wait, advanced glycation end products, so the abbreviation is AGs.
Yes, AGs.
AGs. That is incredibly fitting.
It really is. These AGs are essentially microscopic biological debris. They are defective proteins. And because the lens of your eye has a very slow protein turnover rate, these AGs continuously and silently accumulate over the decades.
And they just sit there.
They clump together, physically clouding the crystalline structure of the lens and simultaneously degrading the highly sensitive microvasculature of the retina.
And this exact physiological cementing process is what accelerates and guarantees early cataract formation in adults over the age of 60.
Exactly.
Wait, I need to push back on the anatomy here to make sure I understand how this is even possible. Glycation is blood sugar binding to protein. I understand that concept systemically. But the physical lens of the eye is completely transparent. It doesn't have a direct blood supply, right? There are no veins running through the lens, otherwise we'd see them blocking our vision. So how on earth is blood sugar physically reaching the proteins in the lens to bake onto them?
That is a brilliant anatomical question.
Hmm.
You are correct that the lens is avascular. It has no direct blood vessels.
Okay.
However, the lens is entirely bathed in a clear, nutrient-rich fluid called the aqueous humor.
The aqueous humor.
Yes, it's continuously secreted by a structure behind the iris called the ciliary body, and it derives its chemical composition directly from your blood plasma.
Oh.
So if your blood sugar is chronically elevated, the glucose rapidly diffuses across the blood aqueous barrier and saturates the fluid inside the front of your eye.
The lens is effectively marinating in a high-sugar bath 24 hours a day.
Exactly. The sugar seeps directly into the lens fibers and begins cross-linking the crystalline proteins.
That makes terrifying sense. Okay, let me try a visual analogy here to ground the science for the listener.
Sure, go for it.
Glycation is essentially like driving a car for 20 years and slowly, imperceptibly, bugs, dirt, tree sap, and road tar get baked onto your windshield by the hot sun.
That's exactly it.
Over time, that windshield gets incredibly cloudy, hazy, and genuinely dangerous to look through, especially at night when light hits it and scatters.
Right.
You can't just wipe a 20-year-old layer of baked-on tar away with a dry microfiber cloth. You need a highly reactive chemical solvent. So in this biological scenario, does the papaya act like a heavy-duty commercial windshield wiper fluid that physically dissolves those clumped ocular proteins to clear the glass?
It's like wiper fluid, yes, but significantly more aggressive and precise. It is a biological solvent.
What's the active compound?
The active compound driving this inside the papaya is a naturally occurring, highly potent proteolytic enzyme called papain.
Pain.
Papain functions as a protease, meaning its specific biological purpose is to seek out, cleave, and break down complex protein chains.
Oh, wow.
When papain enters your systemic circulation, it actively goes to work, dismantling and dissolving those haphazardly clumped glycated proteins, the structural tar on your ocular windshield.
It just breaks them apart.
It chemically interferes with the formation of those advanced glycation end products and unbinds the sugar from the protein before it can permanently cement itself into the crystalline structure of your lens.
That is wild. It's an enzyme functioning as a microscopic wrecking ball, actively dissolving the cloudy sludge right out of the eye.
Exactly.
But I have to ask the skeptical question. Do we have hard, peer-reviewed clinical data proving that eating papaya actually achieves this in human beings, or is this just theoretical biochemistry?
We have concrete data, and the metrics are highly specific. The clinical trials focused entirely on older adults who consumed a standardized amount of papaya specifically in the evening, aligning with their circadian rhythms.
And the results?
Within a mere 6-week window, the blood work revealed measurable, statistically significant drops in systemic markers of glycation. But it wasn't just abstract blood work. The physical, functional outcomes for the patients were undeniable. These adults demonstrated vastly stronger and more stable tear film production, which completely eliminated that chronic, dry, scratchy sensation.
That's huge.
And more importantly, they exhibited scientifically measurable improvements in contrast vision. The hazy, scattered light effects were lifting. The biological solvent was working.
The dosage outlined in the leak is 1 cup of fresh, ripe papaya cubes consumed roughly an hour before bed.
Yes.
But there's a very peculiar, highly specific biohack included in the preparation instructions. You don't just eat the papaya plain. You must squeeze fresh lime juice directly over the cubes immediately before eating them.
Right.
Why? Is that just a culinary suggestion for flavor, or is there a mechanical reason?
The flavor is a pleasant side effect, but the mechanism is purely clinical and essential for older adults. Papaya delivers a powerful, dense matrix of vitamins, particularly high levels of beta-carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A.
Okay, vitamin A.
Vitamin A is absolutely vital for the stability of your tear film and for preventing the outer surface of the cornea from drying out and microtearing. However, the enzymatic conversion and absorption of vitamin A can be highly inefficient in older, slower digestive tracts.
The liver and intestines just struggle to process it.
Exactly. By squeezing fresh lime juice over the papaya, you are introducing a concentrated, immediate blast of ascorbic acid vitamin C.
Oh, I see.
The chemical presence of the vitamin C dramatically and meaningfully alters the pH of the digestive environment, and boosts the body's ability to absorb and utilize the vitamin A. You're essentially using the lime juice as a chemical catalyst to unlock the full ocular healing potential of the papaya.
So we've successfully widened the blood vessels to restore the massive oxygen demand. We've deployed the papain enzyme to scrub the windshield of the eye clear of glycated cloudy sludge. We've got clear glass and good blood flow. Now, we must protect the actual high-definition camera sensor located at the very back wall of the eye from degrading over time. I am talking about the macula. How do we physically armor the macula?
If we carry your camera analogy forward, the macula is undoubtedly the high-definition sensor. It is a tiny, highly specialized, yellowish central zone of the retina.
And it handles all the details, right?
It is entirely responsible for all of your sharp, detailed, forward-facing vision. It is the tissue that allows you to read a book, thread a needle, process vibrant color spectrums, and recognize the faces of your family.
That's a lot of work for a tiny piece of tissue.
Because it processes such an immense amount of high-energy light daily, it has a massive metabolic exhaust rate. As we age, if oxidative stress outpaces the body's antioxidant capacity, and if that local microcirculation weakens, this specific tissue begins to thin, scar, and physically degrade.
And this is macular degeneration.
Yes, this is the foundational biological mechanism behind age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. AMD is one of the absolute leading causes of irreversible, catastrophic vision loss in the developed world.
It effectively erodes your central vision, leaving a massive growing blind spot right in the middle of your visual field.
Exactly.
And the targeted intervention the protocol relies on here is goji berries.
Goji berries, yes.
Now, I know goji berries have a massive reputation. They've been utilized in traditional Eastern medicine for thousands of years. You see them marketed as a superfood everywhere.
Oh, totally.
But strip away the marketing. What is the modern, rigorous clinical data actually showing? What is the specific chemical compound inside the goji berry that's physically targeting the macula?
The active compound is a highly specific dietary carotenoid called zeaxanthin. Goji berries stand apart because they are among the absolute highest natural bioavailable dietary sources of zeaxanthin on the planet. Now, while other general antioxidants might circulate randomly throughout the vascular system of the eye, providing systemic support, zeaxanthin is biologically remarkable.
Why is that?
It is magnetically drawn to and specifically concentrates itself directly inside the macula.
Wait, it goes straight there.
Yes. Once it arrives, it physically embeds into the cellular layers and acts as a localized physical armor. It creates a dense yellow pigment that actively absorbs and neutralizes incoming high-energy light photons before they can strike the delicate photoreceptors and cause oxidative burn damage.
Let's look at the proof. The clinical data on this, frankly, blew my mind when I read the methodology.
Oh, this particular study is considered a watershed moment for the field of nutritional ophthalmology.
The researchers designed a rigorous trial tracking adults specifically between the ages of 60 and 80, the prime demographic for macular degradation.
Right. These participants were instructed to consume a moderate amount of dried goji berries just 5 days a week for a total period of 90 days.
And the clinical results were not ambiguous.
Not at all. At the end of the trial, advanced imaging showed a significant, measurable increase in their macular pigment optical density.
Which is a direct, quantifiable measurement of exactly how much protective physical zeaxanthin armor the macula has successfully built up.
Yes, but here is the most staggering, industry-disrupting finding. Among the participants actively consuming the goji berries, the researchers observed zero progression of macular degeneration during the entire trial period.
Zero progression, let that sink in. In a neurodegenerative disease that is famous in the medical community for just inexorably, unstoppably stealing your vision year after year, this specific protocol halted the degradation completely in that patient group.
Completely halted it.
That is a massive medical claim. Now, alongside the goji berries, the protocol dictates the consumption of golden kiwis. Why golden kiwis? How do they support the macula?
Golden kiwis are densely loaded with both lutein and zeaxanthin. Together, these two compounds act as internal biological blue light filters.
So they act like sunglasses.
Think of them as microscopic, high-tech sunglasses that embed themselves deep inside the layers of your retina. Throughout the day, and particularly if you're looking at digital screens, high-energy blue light penetrates the eye and generates massive amounts of reactive oxygen species.
And the kiwi filters that.
The lutein and zeaxanthin from the kiwi physically absorb that harmful blue light spectrum and neutralize the lingering oxidative stress while your eyes attempt to perform their deep cellular repairs at night.
That's incredible.
Furthermore, golden kiwis specifically contain a unique, naturally occurring combination of antioxidants and a measurable amount of systemic serotonin.
Serotonin, like the neurotransmitter associated with mood regulation.
Exactly. When consumed before bed, this specific serotonin profile interacts with the gut-brain axis and actively promotes a much faster onset of sleep, pushing the brain into deeper, more sustained delta wave sleep cycles.
Oh, I get it. And as we established at the very beginning, deep, uninterrupted sleep is the only biological window in which the retinal tissues can actually execute these profound cellular repairs.
If you don't sleep deeply, the medicine cannot do its job.
The research data found that eating 2 golden kiwis a day leads to highly measurable improvements in visual sharpness and a massive reported reduction in morning eye dryness and redness.
Right.
So let me get the practical application straight. For my new nighttime routine, I just throw a handful of dry goji berries in my mouth, chew them up, peel a green kiwi, and I'm good to go.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
If you execute the protocol that way, you are wasting your time, your money, and you are leaving your eyes completely unprotected. The guidelines outline incredibly strict, non-negotiable clinical preparation rules for these specific fruits.
Okay, what's the first rule?
First, we must address the goji berries. Older digestive systems severely struggle to break down the tough, dense, fibrous exterior of dried goji berries. The stomach acid simply cannot penetrate the cellular matrix fast enough.
So what do?
You must take 2 tablespoons of the dried berries and soak them in a small bowl of warm water for exactly 10 minutes prior to consumption.
Just a quick soak.
Yes. This physical hydration process softens the fibrous matrix and drastically improves the bioavailability and digestibility of the zeaxanthin.
Okay, got it.
Second, and this is perhaps the most brilliant biochemical hack in the entire document, you must pair those soaked goji berries with a small square of high-quality dark chocolate. It must be at least 85% cacao.
Wait, hold on. We are adding chocolate to an eye health protocol. That sounds completely counterintuitive.
It sounds like a treat, but its purpose is strictly mechanical. We are utilizing it specifically for the dense concentration of flavonoids present in high-percentage cacao.
Flavonoids?
The flavonoids found in 85% dark chocolate have been clinically proven to aggressively inhibit certain digestive enzymes and significantly enhance the intestinal transport and absorption of zeaxanthin.
Oh, because the zeaxanthin is hard to absorb.
Because zeaxanthin is a heavy, complex molecule, without the cacao, your intestinal wall only absorbs a small fraction of the nutrient, passing the rest as waste. Together, the goji and the dark chocolate create a highly synergistic chemical reaction. The cacao acts as a biological transport vehicle, ensuring that the maximum possible volume of zeaxanthin actually crosses the intestinal barrier and makes it all the way up to your macula.
That is fascinating. You are essentially eating the key alongside the lock.
Exactly.
Okay, what about the kiwi? When I summarized the steps, I said I would peel a green kiwi, and you immediately corrected me. Why the strict distinction?
Because the protocol explicitly demands golden kiwis, not green. Green kiwis carry significantly higher baseline levels of acidity.
And that's bad before bed.
If you consume a high-acid fruit an hour before bed, especially if you are over the age of 50, you run a high risk of triggering silent acid reflux or mild gastric discomfort.
Which disrupts sleep.
Even if you don't fully wake up, that gastric distress completely shatters the architecture of the deep sleep cycle required for ocular repair.
Yeah.
You will spend the night in light, fragmented sleep.
So golden kiwis are gentler.
Golden kiwis have a much lower acid profile. They sit seamlessly on the nighttime stomach, and they actually contain a substantially higher density of lutein per ounce.
Okay.
And crucially, we must address the preparation of the skin. You must not keel the kiwi down to the bare, wet flesh.
What exactly do you mean? Are you suggesting I eat the fuzzy outer skin of the kiwi?
Not the rough, fuzzy exterior skin, no. But you must not aggressively carve away the inner edge of the skin with a paring knife like you might peel an apple.
Okay, so leave a little bit of the skin.
That extremely thin, pale layer of flesh located just 1 or 2 millimeters beneath the exterior skin contains a massive concentrated dose of caffeic acid.
Caffeic acid?
Caffeic acid is an intensely potent antioxidant and radical scavenger. If you aggressively peel the kiwi and discard that outer millimeter of flesh, you are literally throwing the most potent medicine in the trash.
Oh, wow.
The methodology advises simply slicing the golden kiwi in half horizontally and gently scooping the fruit out with a spoon, intentionally leaving that vital, nutrient-dense inner edge of the skin intact and consuming it.
Okay, let's take a breath and take stock of the physiology we've rebuilt so far. We've widened the suffocating blood vessels with the betalains in dragon fruit.
Yes.
We've dissolved the glycated, cloudy windshield sludge with the papain enzyme in papaya. We've physically fortified and armored the high-def central camera sensor of the macula with goji berries and cacao flavonoids.
Correct.
But what about the outer edges? What about the periphery? What about that terrifying, panic-inducing experience of driving at night in the rain and the headlights from oncoming traffic look like blinding, shattered, chaotic halos that completely wash out your vision? How do we fix the dark adaptation?
What you're describing is a systemic failure of the outer retina. It's the direct result of chronic retinal microinflammation combined with a highly compromised optic nerve.
So it's an inflammation issue.
Over years of oxidative stress, a chronic, low-grade inflammatory response takes hold within the physical structure of the eye. This inflammation distorts the delicate architecture of the retina, changing exactly how incoming photons of light are processed and scattered.
Which creates those massive, blinding halos.
Right. It also causes intense, progressive eye strain when you try to focus in dim, low-light conditions. To combat this, the protocol introduces two highly specific tools designed to rebuild night vision black currants and wild blueberries.
Let's look at the black currants first. These are tiny, deeply colored purple berries, and they're uniquely biologically equipped to combat ocular microinflammation due to their extraordinary, almost unmatched concentration of specific anthocyanins.
Exactly.
Anthocyanins. We hear that word a lot in nutritional science. That's the chemical compound responsible for the deep, dark purple pigment in the skin of the berries, right?
Correct. It is the pigment. But inside the biological environment of the human eye, these specific anthocyanins perform a highly targeted structural function.
What do they do?
First, they act as localized anti-inflammatory agents, calming the micro-swelling around the optic nerve. But critically, they actively help the body rapidly synthesize and restore rhodopsin.
Rhodopsin, what is the mechanism there?
Rhodopsin is the literal, physical, visual pigment located inside the rod cells of your retina. The rods are the cells responsible for seeing in the dark.
Okay.
Whenever a photon of light hits your eye in the dark, it strikes a molecule of rhodopsin. The rhodopsin physically changes shape to send an electrical signal to your brain, and in the process, it is bleached or temporarily destroyed.
Oh, so it's a consumable resource.
Your eye must constantly rebuild these rhodopsin molecules to keep seeing in the dark. This is the exact mechanism of dark adaptation.
And when you age, that slows down.
When your rhodopsin regeneration cycle is slowed down and depleted by chronic inflammation and age, you're easily blinded by sudden headlights, and your eyes take agonizingly long to adjust when you walk into a dark room.
You're left fumbling and squinting because the chemical machinery is broken.
Exactly. The anthocyanins in black currants provide the exact chemical fuel required to accelerate that rhodopsin regeneration cycle.
And the clinical data on black currants supporting the optic nerve is intense. I'm looking at the notes, and there's a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled trial. In the medical research community, that's the absolute gold standard of evidence. It's bulletproof.
Yes, the data from that specific trial is paradigm shifting. The researchers took a large cohort of patients actively suffering from open-angle glaucoma.
Glaucoma is a very serious progressive condition, right?
Extremely serious. It's characterized by physically elevated pressure, causing severe mechanical damage and cellular death to the optic nerves. They administered a strict dosage of 50 milligrams of standardized blackcurrant anthocyanins daily.
And they didn't just track them for a few weeks, they tracked these patients for 24 uninterrupted months.
And the results were staggering to the ophthalmology community. The anthocyanin protocol significantly and measurably improved the actual physical blood flow directly into the optic nerve head. And crucially, it meaningfully slowed the progression of visual field loss compared to the placebo group. The patients kept their vision longer. Furthermore, the blood work showed that the black currants helped normalize the systemic levels of a very specific compound called endothelin-1.
Endothelin-1, what does that compound do?
Endothelin-1 is a powerful peptide that severely constricts blood vessels. In glaucoma patients, it's often overactive, clamping down on the vessels and starving the optic nerve of blood.
So it's choking the nerve.
By naturally down-regulating this compound, the black currants demonstrated genuine, undeniable neuroprotective potential. They were essentially preventing the microvessels from aggressively clamping shut, keeping the life support lines to the optic nerve wide open.
So the recommended clinical dosage is roughly 50 milligrams of a highly standardized blackcurrant anthocyanin extract taken in the evening. I specify an extract because fresh, raw black currants are notoriously difficult to find in standard North American grocery
Right.
stores.
Extracts are much easier.
But the companion fruit to the black currant in this phase of the protocol is much more accessible. It's the blueberry.
Yes.
Now, I love blueberries. I am constantly buying those massive, shiny, perfectly plump blueberries from the supermarket. I keep them in the fridge, I throw them in a bowl, and I eat them by the handful while watching TV at night. Based on everything we've discussed about dark pigments, surely I am completely covered on the ocular antioxidant front.
I have to be completely blunt with you. You are absolutely not covered.
Not at all.
In fact, this is one of the most widespread, fundamentally damaging misunderstandings in modern consumer nutrition. Those massive, shiny, perfectly spherical, plump blueberries sitting in the plastic clamshells in the standard produce aisle are heavily cultivated agricultural varieties.
Okay, so they're different.
They have been aggressively genetically bred over decades for three specific commercial traits: physical size, extended shelf life, and high sugar content.
Not for health benefits.
They have not been bred for medicinal or biological value. Because they are grown in perfectly controlled, heavily fertilized environments, the plants never experience environmental stress. Therefore, they do not produce defensive phytonutrients. They
Wow.
possess measurably significantly lower antioxidant density. The protocol is adamant on this point. You cannot use standard blueberries. You must use wild blueberries.
Okay, I need to understand the chemical difference. Why specifically wild? What is the biological advantage of a plant that grows in the wild?
Wild blueberries, which are usually found exclusively in the frozen section of the grocery store, are much smaller, much darker, and intensely flavorful.
Yeah.
Because they grow in harsh, natural, high-stress environments, the plant is forced to produce massive amounts of defensive chemical compounds to survive against pests and weather.
That makes total sense.
The fruit carries nearly double the concentration of active, protective antioxidants compared to cultivated berries.
Oh.
And the specific, highly prized chemical compound we are targeting inside the wild blueberry is called pterostilbene.
Pterostilbene. Let's look at the mechanics of that because that sounds like a massive, complex molecule.
It is chemically related to resveratrol, which is the famous longevity antioxidant found in the skin of red grapes. But pterostilbene is vastly, structurally superior for ocular health because it is exponentially more bioavailable.
Bioavailable in what way?
Here is the critical physiological mechanism you must understand.
Yeah.
Your inner eye is highly protected by a biological security system called the blood-retinal barrier.
The retinal barrier.
Think of it as a highly sophisticated, microscopic, lidded-based security checkpoint. Its primary evolutionary job is to prevent circulating toxins, pathogens, and heavy metals in your bloodstream from crossing over and entering the incredibly delicate neural tissue of the retina.
Right, it acts as a highly selective biological vault. It keeps the bad stuff out.
Exactly. The inherent problem is that this vault is so incredibly secure, and the lipid barrier is so dense that it also accidentally locks out the vast majority of standard dietary antioxidants.
Oh, no.
Most antioxidants, like standard vitamin C, are water-soluble and structurally clunky. When they reach the blood-retinal barrier, they literally bounce off the fatty security wall.
So they never even get in.
You can eat standard antioxidants all day long, and they will simply circulate aimlessly in your blood, eventually getting filtered out and flushed down the toilet by your kidneys, having never once reached the inside of your eye.
But the pterostilbene is different.
Yes, pterostilbene is structurally unique. It contains specific methoxy groups that make it highly lipophilic, meaning it's fat-soluble.
Fat-soluble, okay.
Because of its microscopic size and its fat-soluble nature, it has the exact molecular passport required to dissolve right through the lipid security wall of the blood-retinal barrier, almost like a ghost walking through a physical wall.
Wow.
It slips completely past the security checkpoint, deeply enters the light-sensitive cells of the retina, and acts directly on the cellular DNA to repair oxidative damage at the source.
That is an incredible evolutionary mechanism. It acts as a targeted lipophilic missile for DNA repair directly inside the retinal vault.
And the clinical literature supports this mechanism beautifully. A highly detailed study confirmed the functional outcome of this process. They tracked a group of older adults who consumed a strict daily dosage of wild blueberries for 12 weeks.
What were the results?
The participants demonstrated notable quantifiable improvements in visual acuity tests. But the subjective reporting was equally important. They reported meaningfully less eye strain when attempting to focus in low-light environments.
And a massive reduction in fatigue when looking at digital screens for extended periods. The targeted structural repair of the photoreceptors by the pterostilbene was evident.
Exactly.
Okay, so the clinical dosage from the protocol is exactly 1/3 cup of wild blueberries consumed roughly 45 minutes before bed. And it specifies that buying them frozen is totally fine, perhaps even chemically advantageous.
Buying them frozen is highly recommended, but there is a vital mechanical step you must follow. You must allow them to completely thaw before you consume them.
Just to make them easier to eat.
No, this is not about the temperature of the food in your mouth. It is a crucial cellular disruption technique. When the wild berries are commercially flash frozen, the water inside their cells expands into ice crystals.
Oh, I see where this is going.
When you allow those berries to thaw on your counter, those ice crystals melt, which physically ruptures and shatters the rigid, fibrous cell walls of the fruit. This process acts as a form of mechanical predigestion.
So it does the work for you.
It dramatically and instantly increases the immediate bioavailability of the pterostilbene and the deep purple anthocyanins. It ensures that the moment you consume them, your aging digestive tract does not have to expend massive amounts of energy trying to break open the tough plant cells.
The cellular vaults are already shattered, and the medicine is completely unlocked and ready to flood rapidly into your bloodstream.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to pull back the lens for a moment because this brings us to what I consider the absolute climax of this entire investigation. We've spent this hour talking about all these incredible specialized interventions, the betalins in dragon fruit, the lycopene in watermelon, the papain enzyme in papaya, the zeaxanthin in goji, the lutein in kiwi, the anthocyanins in blackcurrant, the pterostilbene in wild blueberries.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have meticulously outlined the precise chemical compounds inside them and exactly how they repair the eye. But reading the final section of the leak reveals a brutal, undeniable clinical truth.
Which is?
Having access to the absolute perfect chemical compounds is completely, utterly useless if your body chemically destroys them in the gut before they ever reach your ocular tissue.
That is the tragic, silent reality for millions of people worldwide who are desperately attempting natural or holistic interventions.
They waste so much money.
They spend a fortune procuring the absolute highest quality organic ingredients, but they execute the internal delivery system completely wrong. They neutralize the medicine in their own stomach.
Exactly. And this brings us to the final, most crucial framework of the document, the medical leak protocol. It clearly outlines 5 non-negotiable rules of bioavailability.
Yes.
It states point blank, in no uncertain terms, that if you ignore even one of these 5 rules, the entire biological protocol fails. The chemical reactions will not occur. You might as well be eating candy before bed for all the good it will do your eyes.
It's that sensitive.
I want to treat this final segment like the ultimate insider secret of this entire deep dive. Let's go through them dynamically. I will outline the rule from the leak, and I want you to break down the exact physiological reason it is non-negotiable.
Sounds good.
Let's start with rule number 1, the calcium block.
The calcium block is perhaps the most common, catastrophic dietary mistake made worldwide when attempting antioxidant therapy.
The rule is absolute. You cannot, under any circumstances, combine these specific dark berries or fruits with dairy products.
Right. At a molecular level, the dense casein and whey proteins found in dairy physically and aggressively bind to the delicate anthocyanins in the berries. They form a complex that your body cannot break down, effectively neutralizing the antioxidant completely.
Wow.
But more importantly, introducing a high calcium environment into the stomach physically blocks the intestinal absorption portals for lutein and zeaxanthin.
So it just shuts the door.
Rigorous clinical research has proven that consuming a high-calcium meal, like a bowl of yogurt or a glass of milk, alongside these specific antioxidant-rich fruits, slashes the systemic absorption of the key eye nutrients by up to 30%.
30%. You are actively suffocating the medicine before it even hits your bloodstream. You must maintain a strict absolute minimum of a 90-minute window after consuming any dairy before initiating this fruit protocol.
Yes, 90 minutes minimum.
That is staggering. So the classic image of eating a healthy bowl of Greek yogurt mixed with wild blueberries at night literally cancels out 30% of the biological benefit before it even leaves your stomach cavity.
Unfortunately, yes.
Let's move to rule number 2, the fat catalyst. We touched on this earlier, but expand on why this is a deal breaker.
The majority of the highly specialized, targeted ocular nutrients we have discussed today, particularly the zeaxanthin from the goji berries, the lutein from the kiwi, and the lycopene from the watermelon, are strictly fat-soluble molecules, or lipophilic.
Meaning they need fat to move.
That means they physically cannot dissolve in a watery environment like an empty stomach. They absolutely require dietary lipids fats to form microscopic transport vehicles called micelles.
Micelles.
These micelles are required to ferry the nutrients across the intestinal wall and release them into the bloodstream. If you eat a bowl of dry, soaked goji berries or plain watermelon on a completely empty, fat-free stomach, the vast, overwhelming majority of those expensive nutrients will just pass straight through your digestive tract and end up in the toilet.
So what's the solution?
By adding a small, targeted source of healthy fat, like a small handful of raw walnuts, a teaspoon of high-quality cold-pressed flax oil, or a few slices of fresh avocado alongside your fruit, you actuate the transport mechanism.
And the data shows this simple lipid pairing boosts the actual measurable systemic absorption of the antioxidants by over 50%. It is a non-negotiable biological requirement for systemic delivery.
Over 50% just from adding some fat.
A 50% systemic boost just by eating a single walnut alongside the fruit. That is the definition of a biological hack.
Absolutely.
Okay, rule number 3, surface preservation. This one seems almost too simple, but it's about exactly how you wash the fruit in your sink.
Human behavior tends to ruin fragile biochemistry. People have a deeply ingrained habit of aggressively scrubbing their berries under high-pressure, hot-running water to remove potential pesticides.
Because we're taught to wash our produce really well.
Right. But when you subject wild blueberries or black currants to that kind of abrasive, high-pressure washing, you are physically stripping and washing away a massive percentage of the water-soluble protective compounds.
Because they're on the skin.
These vital anthocyanins are incredibly fragile and are densely concentrated directly upon the microscopic outer surface of the skin. The protocol mandates a very gentle, brief rinse under cool, low-pressure water.
And crucially, you must execute this wash immediately prior to consumption. If you wash them and leave them sitting in the fridge for hours, the protective skin degrades and the antioxidants oxidize in the open air. You preserve the integrity of the medicine by handling it with care.
Exactly. Wash right before you eat.
Stop aggressively scrubbing the medicine down the drain. Understood. Rule number 4, temperature constraints. We touched on the thermodynamics of this briefly when discussing the papaya, but I want to reiterate exactly why cold is the enemy of this protocol.
It all comes down to the fundamental laws of thermodynamics and enzyme kinetics. Every biochemical reaction in your body is heavily dependent on specific temperature ranges.
Right.
Cold environments drastically suppress, slow down, and deactivate enzymatic activity. If you pull your fresh papaya directly from a 35-degree refrigerator and immediately eat it, the papain enzyme, the crucial biological windshield wiper fluid we discussed, is functionally suppressed and dormant.
Oh, so it's asleep.
By the time that cold fruit physically warms up to 98.6 degrees inside your digestive tract, it has already passed through the optimal absorption zones of the upper intestine. You have lost a massive, unrecoverable window of metabolic action.
So the protocol dictates that the fruit must be taken out of the refrigerator a strict 30 to 60 minutes prior to consumption. It must reach ambient room temperature, ensuring the enzymes are fully awake, active, and at maximum metabolic strength the exact second they hit your stomach acid.
Exactly right. The precision is incredible. And finally, rule number 5, the 60 to 90-minute window. This is the master timing constraint of the entire operation. Why is the clock so critical?
Because timing is the master key that unlocks nocturnal cellular repair. Your body operates on a strict circadian rhythm. If you eat these specialized fruits 3 or 4 hours before bed, the active compounds are rapidly metabolized.
Filtered by your liver and cleared from your bloodstream by your kidneys long before your brain and eyes actually enter their deep sleep repair phases.
Yes. The medicine arrives, finds no repair work happening, and leaves. You have entirely missed the biological window.
What if you eat them right before bed?
Conversely, if you eat the fruit 5 minutes before your head hits the pillow, your autonomic nervous system is suddenly forced to divert massive volumes of blood, oxygen, and metabolic energy down to your gut to manage active digestion.
Which keeps you awake. This massive energy diversion completely shatters the delicate electrical architecture of your deep sleep. You will toss and turn. Without entering deep, sustained delta wave sleep, The eye simply cannot and will not initiate the physical repair of the photoreceptors.
So the strict 60 to 90-minute window is mathematically calculated. It ensures that the digestion is largely complete and the nutrients hit their absolute peak concentration in your bloodstream at the exact precise moment your brain transitions into restorative delta wave sleep.
It's perfectly timed.
Look at the sheer mechanics of that. If we step back and analyze these 5 rules collectively, it's not just about casually knowing what superfoods to ingest. That is amateur nutrition.
Yeah.
This is about meticulously engineering the exact, highly specific biological environment within your own gastrointestinal tract right before you lose consciousness.
Yeah.
You are literally compounding your own highly targeted, time-released medical intervention right there on your kitchen counter.
That's exactly what it is.
You ensure there is absolutely no calcium present to block the absorption. You deploy healthy fats to act as the lipid transport vehicle. You maintain precise room temperatures to maximize enzyme thermodynamics. And you execute flawless timing to perfectly sync the chemical payload with your neurological sleep architecture. It is an absolute masterclass in manipulating human physiology.
That is exactly what Dr. Clark intended to convey. That level of precision is the defining difference between a consumer casually eating a healthy midnight snack and a patient successfully executing a targeted clinical medical intervention.
In human biology, the microscopic details are entirely what separate functional success from complete cellular failure.
Absolutely.
I want to bring this incredibly intense, high-impact clinical breakdown to a head. We started this investigation talking about a universally shared miserable morning routine. Waking up, aggressively rubbing your dry eyes, squinting through a heavy, blurry haze for an hour, or gripping the steering wheel in sheer terror as shattered halos blind you on the highway at night. And what the clinical data has undeniably proven today is that none of that suffering is simply the result of aging. That pain, that blurriness, that loss of function, that is the desperate sound of your ocular network crying out for chemical intervention.
It's a cry for help.
It is the result of untreated nocturnal retinal hypoxia suffocating your cells in the dark. It is the result of uncontrolled toxic glycation silently cementing structural proteins to your clear lens. It is the result of chronic, untreated microinflammation slowly starving your optic nerve of blood.
But the profound, empowering takeaway from the entirety of the LEAD data is that you possess agency. You are not a passive, helpless victim of time or genetics.
Not at all.
By intentionally deploying these highly specific bioavailable compounds, the vasodilation of the betalins, the biological solvent of the papain, the physical armor of the azaxanthin, the DNA repair of the pteroscobine, you can actively chemically intervene in these destructive cellular processors.
You have the knowledge to widen those microscopic capillaries. You have the tools to dissolve the glycated debris. You can build a physical shield over your macula. You can change your biological outcomes starting tonight.
You really can.
But before we close this file, I want to leave you with a final, slightly chilling yet completely fascinating concept that we haven't explicitly discussed yet.
Okay.
We have just spent this entire massive deep dive mapping out in excruciating clinical detail just how incredibly desperate your eyes are for oxygen and highly specific nutrients while you sleep.
Right.
We have seen the data proving how they literally suffocate, starve, and degrade in the dark if they don't receive exactly what they need. But consider this. Your visual system is just one small, highly specialized neural network located in your head.
That's true.
If your eyes are quietly starving, suffocating, and breaking down in the dark without these precise chemical interventions, it absolutely forces you to ask the question, what other major vital organs inside your body are silently starving right now while you falsely believe you are resting?
It's a profound, paradigm-shifting question regarding our entire foundational understanding of nighttime physiology. The human body is a deeply interconnected, systemic ecosystem.
Everything is linked.
If the eyes, which are a direct extension of the brain, are indicating a catastrophic systemic failure of nocturnal nutrient delivery, it's not an isolated event. It is a flashing red warning light on the dashboard of your overall biological health.
Take your nighttime physiology incredibly seriously. Your vision, your autonomy, and your independence are entirely irreplaceable. Do not treat your sleep as a passive period of unconscious rest. Treat it as a highly active, required, perfectly timed medical procedure. Until next time, stay curious and keep digging.